Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Castillo versus Jerusalem fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Jerusalem is 22-3 with 12 KOs and Castillo is 21-1 with 13 KOs. This fight is for the WBC World Minimum Weight title. Jerusalem's last fight was a win via split decision versus Shigeoka, and Castillo's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus Herrera. This is in Jerusalem's home country of the Philippines, and this is Castillo's first time fighting outside of Mexico. Castillo is a southpaw. Jerusalem is 5'2" with a 62-inch reach, and Castillo is 5'5.5" with a 66-inch reach. Jerusalem's losses have come versus Collazo in 2023 via stoppage, Kanoy in 2017, and Moonsri in 2017. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I mentioned, this WBC title on the line, and that is the belt in which Jerusalem picked up last time out against Shigeoka in a bit of a shocking victory, to be completely honest. Obviously, he got a really impressive knockdown and was defying the odds. He kind of came into it, and people were thinking, that it wasn't an amazing fight to make because, of course, just recently before that, Jerusalem had lost to Collazo. So, yeah, a lot of people weren't really thinking too much of Jerusalem going into that fight versus Shigeoka. But to be honest, he shocked a lot of people, and he was good. He was impressive. He was world title worthy in that fight, and really, I was glad that the decision went his way. Obviously, he got the knockdown, and it was still a split decision, and it was in Shigeoka's home country, so it could have gone a different way. I respect fighters like Jerusalem. These often you see Filipino type fighters willing to go over to Japan and kind of put their opportunity, be the underdog, and see if they can come out on top. And I mean, it's similar to what you saw against Jinjaro Shigeoka as of recent. Obviously, he lost to Tanduran, and he was somebody who had a big backing and was expected to do excellent things in the minimum weight division, and he still might. I'm not saying he's not going to at all. Same with Yudai Shigeoka. I mean, Yudai's gone on to go and win in his most recent fight, in his kind of comeback type fight. So he's definitely on the right track to be able to get back to world titles. But Jinjaro Shigeoka obviously went and lost to Tanduran, and that was a surprise type thing against a Filipino fighter who came over to Japan to then fight. And so, like I say, it's similar to that of Jerusalem, and together both of them have kind of ended that Shigeoka hype, at least for the moment. And so, it was an impressive victory. It was interesting to see that there was no rematch kind of ordered between the two of them. Like I say, a split decision wouldn't have surprised me if they would have gone and wanted a rematch, but I suppose they wanted to keep the division moving, and maybe Shigeoka didn't really fancy the rematch and wanted to, like I say, get a win back in the winning column and then be able to return back to world titles maybe after a couple more wins. And so, we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. But of course, Jerusalem now has this fight versus Castillo, and it's an interesting contest. I mean, Castillo hasn't ever fought outside of Mexico, like I said, and he's not really, he's got a lot of wins. He's undefeated, but he's never really been properly on paper tested. And so this is going to be a real test for him going over to the Philippines. It's nice to see that Jerusalem is getting this homecoming type fight. From the sounds of what I've read, it seems like there is a lot of fans coming out for Jerusalem, which, like I say, it's really nice to see realistically, when a lot of the time in recent years Filipino boxing hasn't had too many kind of superstars compared to where it once was. And so, like I say, it's nice to see that the eyes are on that. But Castillo is coming over to upset the apple cart and to make things look a bit different, and to be able to shock to an extent people and then be able to get a win. And there's not really too much footage online of Castillo fighting, but I've seen clips of the fight versus Herrera, and it was seemingly a pretty comfortable performance. I think he is a good fighter, Castillo, and I'm going to speak more about him individually as a fighter in a moment. But obviously as a southpaw, he is a tall guy for the minimum weight division. You see a lot of fighters in the minimum weight division are a lot shorter than 5'5.5". And I mean, Jerusalem 5'2". There is going to be a big height difference, a big reach difference, and Jerusalem loves that kind of straight right hand, in which he landed very well versus Shigeoka, and that's what got the knockdown. But if he's not going to be able to find the range of it, Castillo is also very good with his jab, and also pumps a nice shot to the body, straight to the body as well, which is nice. So if he can use that reach, he could find success there. And like I say, it's nice to have the eyes on Filipino boxing. I believe this is for Pacquiao's blow for blow boxing promotion. So, like I say, it's just interesting to see big names like Pacquiao acknowledging fighters like Jerusalem and kind of giving back to the Philippines by having, like I say, putting on these events. And obviously, Jerusalem's had his losses in the past, and like I say, the Collazo one probably was his worst one. He seemed like he wasn't really able to fight. It seemed like he kind of lost his will a little bit, and it just looked completely different to that of the Shigioka fight. It seemed like he completely changed as a fighter between them two fights. So I think the losses don't really reflect him too much. Obviously, he's kind of only realistically lost versus some of the best. I mean, Kanoi is still ranked very highly and has fought for belts in the past, and I believe currently he's on like a five-fight stoppage winning streak. So that's one of the top guys still. And then Moonstreet, obviously he's been a champion for 6 years in the past, and he's only realistically lost versus some of the best himself. He lost to Pradabsri twice in their kind of two fights, and then Neomtrong as well. And obviously, we just seen Neomtrong beat Winwood, so there is, like I say, he's only lost to realistically some of the best, and Moonstreet was in the prime of his career at that point, like I say, on a 6 year reigning streak of his belt. So, yeah, there's no discredit to anybody that Jerusalem has lost to, but to speak about them both individually as fighters, Jerusalem is pretty light on his feet. I do quite like that about him. He moves relatively well. He's light on his feet. He's got good body work. He was investing very much well to the body in a lot of his fights. Even against Shigioka, he was able to do that, and that was perhaps disrupting the momentum of Shigioka. He lets his hands go. I believe that Castillo also lets his hands go. So, and also to be fair, has decent body work. Perhaps a little bit different. I think Castillo pushes his shots through individually singular shots to the body, but Jerusalem kind of flurries of attacks with them. But like I said, they both seem to let their hands go. Jerusalem has solid counters. He can fight on the front foot or the back foot. I think he's got a good chin at the same time. He took some big shots versus Shigioka, and he took some big shots versus Collazo, and it didn't seem like neither of them was able to drop him. So I think he has got a good chin. Obviously, he has that experience at a high level, in which has been shown off now, different to that of Castillo. I mean, fighting fight for the belt in 2017, it shows that he has got that experience and is used to fighting at a high level. He can fight at a mid or in close range. I think he does grow in confidence throughout the fights, and as soon as he got that knockdown scored versus Shigioka, he seemed like he did have a lot of confidence there, and I think he can handle physical pressure as well. Certain fighters, Jerusalem isn't massive, he's not seemingly the most physical himself, but he seems like he can deal with that physical pressure, and a lot of fighters seem to struggle with that a bit, and I think in general, when he wants to put on his flurries of attacks, like I say, then body work attacks that he does, he's quite hard to get off, and they seem like they are quite pouncing attacks when he uses them. So, like I say, it's difficult to be able to deal with. It's difficult to be able to counter, to be completely honest. But yeah, it's difficult to be able to handle. And like I say, he has that excellent straight right, which if he can time on the back foot, he maybe doesn't have the most amount of power, but if he can time it, then he can really have success with it. Negatives about him, I think he comes with quite wide hooks a lot of the time, similar to that of Castillo. I think they both have quite wide looping shots, in which can be perhaps what takes the power out of the shots a bit and can be seen from a bit more of a predictable kind of standpoint. I think he stands straight on a lot of the time. I think he can lean or rush in a bit if he wants to put on them, like say, pouncing attacks. He takes a shot and then can kind of cover up a little bit. He takes shots, covers up a lot of the time, and then waits for his turn to respond. I don't think he always tries to fight his fight. I think he can try and fight the opponent's fight quite a bit, and then be able to, like I say, cover up, wait for his turn, and then respond. And then, sometimes it works. He can catch fighters out like Shigioka because he stayed in range too long, and that's how he got caught. But if he is just taking a lot of shots and then the fight is moving out and then being able to readjust, then that's where he might not be able to find the most amount of success. I think he has quite a low open guard a lot of the time. His technical ability sometimes can look a little bit off. He has got, like I say, solid-ish fundamentals, but it can seem a little bit off. His chin can be in the air. His accuracy isn't always amazing. I think he can stay in range too long. I think he circles around a lot of the time in the same kind of direction. He doesn't always, he isn't always able to gain your respect, gain opponent's respect. I think he can, like I say, he's shown that he can kind of lose that will, and if he loses that will, then he will just stop throwing and stop being able to realistically do much of anything, and that's how he did against Collazo, and that's no discredit really, because Collazo is one of the best, if not the best, minimum weight we have at the moment, and it's just it seems like he is there to lose at will, and I think he also can be hurt to the body if somebody is continuously attacking his body. Speak about Castillo as a fighter. Like I say, there isn't loads of footage on him, but I've seemed to be able to gather a bit, and like I say, see clips of certain fights of his. He counts as well. I think he does that similarly to that of Jerusalem. I think they both can fight on the front foot or the back foot well. He fights at a middle and in close range as well, typically pretty good. He's got good shot variation from what I've seen. He'll go to the body, push shots to the body with that, like I say, straight shots. He'll uppercut nicely. He can kind of like jumping uppercuts, which is quite difficult to be able to counteract. And in general, I think he has got a better, perhaps, shot to variation to that of Jerusalem. He's quite relaxed seemingly a lot of the time. He's got good timing, good accuracy. Not really typically too much of that of a Mexican type style, in my opinion. I don't think it's quite as pressure, quite as bullish as that of a lot of Mexican type fighters. Like I say, it seems quite relaxed. He finds his range relatively well. He's got solid head movements as well. Like I say, it's nothing crazy, but perhaps there's a little bit more head movement than that of Jerusalem. But I think Jerusalem perhaps moves a bit better. You won't be bullied, Castillo, and he's got a good pumping jab, which, like I say, if he can keep Jerusalem at that jab, he could definitely find a lot of success. Negatives about him, obviously, this is a big step up for him. Of course, he's got that experience in the way of rounds, but he hasn't really got that experience, like I mentioned, at the top level. So this is going to be a real step up. He stands upright quite a lot of the time, so he's quite a big target. And Jerusalem, like I say, wants to go to the body, so he might be able to find success there. I think he reacts to a lot of feints. Anytime any fighter will feint a little bit, it seems like he's kind of flinching and perhaps covering up a little bit after that. He doesn't really circle off after, if he's on the ropes, he's able to deal really well with handling that pressure, similar to that of Jerusalem on the ropes, but he doesn't really want to seemingly circle off sometimes. He invites that pressure. I think he has a bit of a weak guard. I think he can back off quite slowly. When he is getting pushed on the back foot, he will just kind of just walk backwards and then be able to take punishment still whilst walking backwards. He has quite wide hooks, like I said. His power isn't anything too crazy. I mean, he's got a knockouts, but it's the level of opponent isn't really too crazy, so you can't really look into it too much, I don't believe. I think his footwork can be a little bit messy at times, like I say, when he's reacting to them feints, it seems like he's kind of cowering up a little bit, and he's not really typically that fluid. Jerusalem is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Castillo is going to win by a unanimous decision. Perhaps it's a bit of a bold thing to say, but I think if he can keep, like I say, keep Jerusalem at a jab, not get overly confident, which I don't think he will be, unlike Shigeoka, who was coming in quite confident and wanting to kind of show off a little bit, and that's where he made mistakes. I don't think that he's going to be able to do that, and I think Jerusalem could be kept at a jab. I think he could perhaps get put on the back foot. It's going to be an interesting fight. I think, yeah, like I said, I just believe that Castillo is going to be able to win with the better shot variation, with the better accuracy in general in his work. And like I say, if he can keep that jab going, keep the straight to the body as well, he could find success there, hurting Jerusalem. Then that's where I believe he could go on to win by unanimous decision. I don't think he's going to be able to stop Jerusalem, but it would be a big win and it would shoot him into actual contention realistically in the minimum weight division. Then who he can go on to fight. Obviously, the Shigeoka brothers are both there. Like I say, Yodai has returned back to winning ways now, but Jinjiro hasn't yet, so there could be a fight to be made with Castillo. Or, like I say, like I mentioned his name before, Kanoi is another fighter, and of course he's on a 5-fight winning streak, so he's also ranked very highly in the WBC as well, so that could be an option as well. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.